Welcome back to XTraw AI, where we decode the future one intelligence signal at a time. I'm your host, Raghu Banda, and this is the grand opening of Season 16, the Global AI Pulse, October 2025. This month, the AI world lit up with billion-dollar infrastructure plays, new frontier chips, and renewed debates on global governance. And we're not just reporting the news. We're breaking it down through the 4 XTraw AI buckets: infrastructure and investments, product innovation, ecosystem integrations, and ethics and governance. To kick things off, I'm joined by 2 thought leaders, Lucas and Sesh. Together, we'll decode how October's big moves, from OpenAI Broadcom's 10 gigawatt build out to Apple's M5 chip and Salesforce's AI alliances, are setting the tone for the enterprise AI race ahead. And in the second half, we're joined by Manjeet Singh, and we'll explore the other side of the AI pulse. So whether you're tuning in from a data center or a decision room, buckle up. Season 16 begins right here, right now, on XTraw AI. Let's dive in.
All right, welcome back to our XTraw AI podcast. And this is the monthly roundup on the AI news around the globe. And welcome back, Lucas, and welcome back, Sesh. I'll be talking with Manjeet later on. I think it's got a conflict. So
thanks for having us.
Yep. All right. So let me start with you, sir, Lucas. How have you been, and how are things going on in your world?
Thank you. I've been very well. I'm preparing presentations about agentic AI and how it will change how businesses need to change. And that's a fun topic. I really enjoyed because, is agentic AI overhyped? Is agentic AI a big opportunity? Yes, right? Both things can be true at the same time. And it's interesting to explore how this will play out. And I think that we have a couple of good ideas in defining the success criteria in how to make agentic AI work for a business. And why is this important? Because so far, whenever we talked about tech, we talked about it as a tool, right? And whatever you have is something to get your work done. But with agentic AI, it's the first time we cross over and work gets done. It uses tools itself. So there's a bit of a step change as we roll out this technology in terms of like what it could mean for work and organizations. And of course, for us, the most interesting part is how it will reconceptualize work itself, the processes, right? How you run your business. And that keeps me pretty busy. I mean, not that AI is never not busy, but yeah, it keeps me pretty up to date.
Great. Over to you, Sesh. How are things in your world? I think before we get into our regular monthly updates.
Yeah, all good. Thank you so much for asking. I mean, I always, this is an interesting evolution that we are having. And then there's always a constant discussion about AI being a bubble or not a bubble. But in general, I guess we've been around for a while to see that there's always going to be an Amazon.com and there's always going to be a petstore.com. So eventually there'll be more Amazons than pet stores. So we just have to stay tuned with what's happening and evolve ourselves.
All right. I think it's a great introduction, great start to our monthly AI news roundup. So let's start with you, Sesh. I know as we do monthly, we go over all the 4 buckets. As always, we start with the first bucket, I believe the interesting bucket, which is the investments and infrastructure bucket. So what are your thoughts? What are the big things you've seen here? I know there's a lot of investments going on. Specifically, I know that Salesforce is also investing big time in the city, and also we see a lot of investments coming from Google, and Google is investing big time. I heard in South India, in one of the places, I think a lot in the data centers and other things. But yeah, I'll let you take this and provide your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to investments, almost always um, investments and partnerships in some sense go hand in hand. Uh, we all hear a lot about NVIDIA being in the mix of any big investments. Um, and then, of course, now we are starting to see partnerships with Broadcom and then yeah. So that keeps going. But what is interesting for me, at least this month, is that there was a spate of kind of investment slash partnership that Anthropic struck with all around across the board. I see like they announced at Salesforce Dreamforce, they announced a partnership with Salesforce for expansion into regulated industry through the enterprises, and then in the same week they also announced a partnership with Microsoft, creating Microsoft 365 connectors. That is purely from an enterprise play perspective. At the same time, they also announced partnerships with like Google, expanded into Google Cloud, getting TPU access, which is kind of a symbiotic relationship for both. And the third area again, so we talked about enterprise, we talked about the securing of the compute power with Google. They also expanded their partnership with IBM, getting into the enterprise developer tools. Um, and of course, they also expanded with the gigawatt scale TPU deal that did with Google, with over 1 billion TPUs, I think. So I found it very interesting that now, like between like last year to now, we heard a lot of OpenAI deals. Now you see, Anthropic is on a more like a amped up mode, having deals. And of course, the same is continuing to happen with OpenAI and Broadcom. They did the 10 gigawatt custom AI accelerator program with Broadcom, and then they also partnered now with AMD. So it's interesting that now Anthropic is also very much in. They found a niche into the enterprises. They're doing all of these deep partnership with the IDE tools, compute power, as well as the various CRM plays for getting into a secure industry, right? So with it's basically audit plus transparency happening. So I found that like as a new evolution in terms of how all of the players are coming into the marketplace and being aggressive.
So coming to you, Lucas, I think what are your thoughts? I know there's big investments going on in this category. What are your thoughts? I think from this.
I think I will pick up where we left with Anthropic, but from a different perspective, because the deal that they announced with Google, I kind of want to go into that because I feel like it's underappreciated, right? So what was it about? Anthropic essentially made a deal with Google to be allowed to use their TPU, so tensor processing units. So everybody knows, right? Like this AI doesn't need CPUs. I mean, it kind of needs them, but mostly needs GPUs. But GPUs, weird, right? Because they're like graphical processor units, like they're for rendering images originally. But NVIDIA was really smart, and for 20 years they invested in their software, and now they have a stack based, which is called CUDA, right? And everybody can use GPUs because essentially they're just massively parallelized computers. So CPU does one job really well. It's very versatile. GPUs, thousands of little cores, but hard to use. And so NVIDIA built up a lot of moat in because their software stack is just so mature. And I mean, Jensen Huang said it's the crown jewel of his entire company. He thinks that the CUDA software layer is really what makes a difference. Anyway, long story short, Lucas, why are you talking about this? I'm talking about it because there wasn't really other game in town, right? There was only NVIDIA in essence, like for the real frontier. And then there was Google, but Google never really shared. They had already started in 2014, 15 to come up with their own specialized hardware, tensor processing units. But we all knew that highly specialized hardware is better in terms of flops or tokens per dollar, right? So it was clear that Google has the biggest scale and the best cost structure, but they have their own stack and nobody knows exactly what there is and how much, like it really, like how it works out for them in terms of cost structure. But it seemed to be quite massive. And a lot of people assumed that they want to keep it tight, right? Don't share with the industry. We have a fully integrated stack from the very bottom to the very top, from the user interaction to the hardware to the design of the chips, everything in-house. Like it's amazing, right? And now they open it up and just days later they're sold out, right? So all of essentially their hardware like is now also up for purchase. And that's a real change because now with maybe AMD coming up, with some of the startups like CoreWeave and others coming like into the market more strongly, there seems to be competition. We could see a world that is multi-silicon. It's not just like one type of way of using like GPUs or TPUs, right? And it also kind of shows that Google thinks real mode might be somewhere else. And I think it's also interesting why, because if you look at Alphabet, and this is not financial advice, I think if they're doing stuff like that, they could be worth much more. Because if they are selling the best price per token hardware in the future, wow, a lot of businesses would want to have that just so they don't depend fully and singularly or exclusively on NVIDIA. So if they are going in that space, if they spun out GCP with their TPUs and sold it to everybody in the world, wow, that might be together with Waymo and and YouTube. I think Alphabet is hold small by there's much bigger companies inside, and I'd be curious to see if they do more with it. So that's a big step change that we're now seeing.
True, true. I think I completely echo your thoughts. I think there is a lot happening with all these big players. And of course, I also heard that there's the meta platforms, they're also forecasting very high capital costs when they are embarking on this aggressive AI build out. They are also spending heavily in these chips and this in this race. So I didn't read much about that, but I think I heard a few thoughts around that. So getting into the continuing further, what are I know there's been a lot of product launches and innovations have happened. I believe if you talk about these big players, right, whether it is Apple or Microsoft or Google, I know they have pushed a lot of new hardware or new releases came out. So what are your thoughts? I think, do you want to bring up some of those things, Lucas? In the
Sure. I mean, look, we sound like a broken record because we're saying, hey, there is so much and it's hard to keep track, but there really is, right? We could talk just about Sora, the video creation social platform, whatever it exactly is from OpenAI. We could talk about at least 5 releases from Microsoft in the B2B space or Anthropic in like the upgraded APIs, which completely stealing the show in terms of like corporate uptake, right? They're dominating the coding and so market. But personally, I want to focus on one specific thing, namely OpenAI Atlas. And it's their browser. And I think, why am I talking about it? It's just another browser, but I think OpenAI is kind of trying to dominate the market in a way we haven't seen in a generation, right? The last time a company completely dominated the market was maybe Microsoft when they had their first like Windows 311 or Windows 95. People who are as ancient and very old, right, as I am, remember the times when Microsoft was just a 900-pound gorilla and it was just the biggest thing. It seems like OpenAI is not content doing one thing. It sounds like they want to do everything at the same time, right? They want to build chips, they want to build data centers, they want to build browsers, they want to do coding agents, they want to obviously push forward their frontier models. And then there's at least 5 other products that they're currently working on, right? And it feels very audacious. But I also have to say, it makes a ton of sense to have really good integration of AI in your browser.
True.
I tried it out for the last couple of days, and some websites fully integrate the experience. That's amazing. And sometimes it's just a little bit on top, but already that makes the experience so much easier. You can interact and work with your browser, because very often I'm sure I'm not the only one who has a gazillion tabs open in this remote hope that at some future miraculous point in time, I will have time to read all of that, right? But what's cool is now I can just like put some prompt in and go like, hey, I had a couple of sites open that were all about the same topic. Can you summarize it for me and whatnot? Like, and it just works. And I feel like it needs to go in that direction. And I find it interesting. It's a breath of fresh air in the browser market. It's audacious. It rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's interesting. It's great news. That's what we want, right?
Beautiful, beautiful. I think I know last month, I think we were talking about how Perplexity came up with their browser, and now we're talking about OpenAI's browser. And so these I see something I would not relate it to the late 90s or early 2000s, the internet.com
But
boom.
let me,
But it
sorry
is
if I
getting like that.
interject for 1 second, because
Yeah.
there was comment, there was a lot of browsers
Yes,
before that
yes.
already used AI. But if you have a billion people, using your service and hundreds of millions of weekly active users, and you then push a browser, that's a different value proposition. They start out of the gate not as a curiosity, but right out of the gate as one of the biggest browsers on the market. That's, yeah.
I think just
So,
like how IE Internet Explorer versus Netscape Navigator, I think something, I don't know how the things will turn out, but I think some patterns. Like, over to you, Sesh. I believe, what are your thoughts? I know this space of product launches and innovation is exploding like anything. We have a lot of new things going on there. I also heard about this, um, uh, the Optimus, what is this? The humanoid robot, where they made a public demonstration, right? I think. What are your thoughts in this space, Sesh?
Unfortunately, I have not been following the humanoid announcement, although I did read about it. I've not been too close to all of the details, and definitely something that I have to catch up. Um, but I mean, to plus one to what Lucas was saying about um, OpenAI browser as well. Of course, it's only a matter of time Google is going to come in, so it is going to be an um, interesting user experience overall when you're able to combine web tools context into a single assistant. Um, oh, it's going to reduce a lot of the context switching which we all experience. So I'm looking forward to. I actually have um, Atlas downloaded, but it's in my work computer, so I think they disable it the moment I launch it. It gets killed. So I have to do it at my personal computer, I think. But it'll be interesting. I want to try it out this weekend. The From a innovation standpoint, just moving from software to hardware, right? So we spoke about Google TPU as well as now OpenAI. A lot of these things are centered around the cloud-driven AI integration. What was also interesting is I think on October 15th or 2 weeks back, Apple launched their M5 chip,
Right.
which is more focused on-device AI to unlock like performance, providing access to, I mean, creating um, enterprise workflows, video editing, which is your strength always, on-device LLM interface, as well as security, which is a key story, right? So that'll be interesting evolution on how this evolves. Um, um, More from a hardware perspective as well. They are of course partnering with TSM from the past from for building those I think 3 nanometer chips to power all of these things. But what will be uh, what will be interesting is the how this evolves from a personal space as opposed to the cloud space. The product positioning is also oriented towards that. So sometimes enterprise AI also requires large scale data center infrastructure, server, and all those things. But M5 focuses more on the endpoint edge devices, and this could influence enterprise scenarios on edge computing, local analytics, on employee devices, hybrid cloud slash offline workflow scenarios. So that's something which will be interesting from an evolution and how the Apple ecosystem builds an innovation around it. So that's more like a complement from the conversations we are having with Google TPUs and OpenAI. We also have to look at it from the edge perspective. So clearly, Apple probably feels that they've not really made the first move on the cloud, so they're going from their strength, starting from an edge or the on-device AI. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this actually evolves.
True, true. I think very well said. I believe there's a lot happening in the hardware space as well. The reason why I brought up this, the Tesla's Optimus humanoid robot, is I think they made a public demonstration in Times Square, New York,
Mhm.
and then it shows how we are shifting from an algorithm only phase into agent plus embedded systems. And I think Lucas might know this. I think there was a LinkedIn post um, by SAP's chief AI officer, Philip Herzig. He was showing sitting with a humanoid robot and unveiling the SAP's TechEd, which is going to happen next week in Berlin, I believe the first week of November. I think SAP has this Tech Connect. I think last month, October first week, it happened in Vegas, and now it's in Berlin. So that was the reason I brought that up. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that world. So coming to you, Lucas, continuing further, I think, do you want to make any comment on that before we get into the third category of integration and ecosystems?
I just think in terms of generally speaking about robots that we haven't yet seen the ChatGPT moment for them,
Yeah.
but I'm quite certain that this will be, whether it's next year, the year after, it's quite imminent that there will be a huge shift and people will go like, holy moly, this is real. Like I need a robot in my home, or at least in industrial spaces we'll see a massive rollout of that technology. So I think there was like a co-evolution now where the models of the large language models also really reinvigorated that space. And it kind of gets drowned out by the AI news, but robotics is on a tear. What they're now doing, and if you see like how quickly that field is accelerating compared to others, it's impressive. So we still have work next year talking about the news, because even if AI would slow down, the robots won't.
Yeah, and actually speaking in context of the robotics, at Dreamforce, Mark Benioff actually interviewed Brett
Yes,
Hadcock.
yeah.
He's the CEO of Figure AI, which also thinks about humanoid robots, along with a lot of the purpose-built robots on not like generic robots, but purpose-built robots. So two things that he said, all this was obvious. It didn't stick until he said it, right? There was this question asked by Mark to him on, will robots be better than humans, right? So he made two comments, which was very interesting. One is he was saying that um, a child learns to walk in about a year or year and a half,
Mhm.
right? And then every child learns after a year and a half. With humanoids and robots, if one child learns, every child in the universe has learned at the same time, right? So the learning curve completely changes, right? So that way they can race ahead. The second point he also made was that he was saying humans only have one central control system for intelligence, and that kind of directs every part of the organ. And one humans also have only one central system for memory and all those things, although there is this notion of muscle memory. And he said with robots, you can actually have a brain in every limb, every joint, and data in every limb, every joint. So that kind of amplifies the amount of inferences and decision making that they can make. Not only that they learn super fast, they actually can make decisions even faster. So those were two things he was saying, that he didn't answer the question to say whether humanoids are going to be better than humans, but he just left us with two thoughts, which I think people can answer for themselves. I found the way he put it very interesting. I mean, if somebody got a chance to see the interview, you should see it.
True, true. I did see that interview. I think there were some of these YouTube videos. Yeah, there's some very amazing stuff. Yeah, I was also following some of these Agent Force interviews which were going on. I know there's one big. That is also a big thing, big conference this month, right? I think. Yeah. So continuing further, Sesh, from the third category or the third bucket, which we typically talk about, I know we talked about some partnerships, but I think any integrations or ecosystem um, related news that stands out from your standpoint in the last few weeks.
So we, in some sense, like the partnership and investments at this stage are always around innovation and integration. We talked about the IDE integration by Anthropic, which was pretty interesting, and how they're partnering to take it forward. Um, Other than that, I think from an industry standpoint, there is a lot happening from integration standpoint. Like AWS Bedrock expanded its partnership. They started this generative AI innovation center, and they are actually building a marketplace around it. There's a lot of these point vendors coming in together to expand on that, which is going to obviously proliferate the whole the chain of innovations that comes in as a result of that kind of a ecosystem coming in, right? And we also, I don't know if we spoke about OpenAI and AMD partnership for a
Hmm.
multi-gigawatt processor deal that they did, which now opens more players than just AMD or Broadcom. AMD is also, more players than NVIDIA and Broadcom. AMD is also in the game. They locked in a giant processor order with OpenAI locked a giant processor order. In some sense, they're kind of expanding the supply chain, and then creating tentacles into various procurement options. So that's another um, partnership slash integration stream going on from a hardware side as well. So
Right, right. So, what are your thoughts, Lucas, in this space about partnerships and integrations and the ecosystem? I know that's uh, It's an ever evolving space.
I mean, at times, I think people might think, oh, integrations and partnerships, maybe that's not the most sexy category. But actually, I think this month it might be the sexiest category because OpenAI, and I hate that we are coming back to the same company, but they announced native integrations for checkout and buying stuff from Instacart, Walmart, and others. I think Shopify and also Etsy. And what that means is the entire model of internet e-commerce is not breaking, but there is now an entirely new way of doing things. Because let's think about it. For the last 15 years, the equation was very simple, right? You went ahead, you searched for stuff, maybe on Google, sometimes on Amazon. You went to a shop or Etsy, whatever, you bought stuff, you paid for it, and that was it, right? Now, you don't have to leave your interface. You're connected and talking to your agent. You don't need to look at 20 different web stores. You just say like, hey, I want a certain product. And theoretically, based on the memory, on past interactions, your agent should know a lot about your habits, right? And so it should, in theory, supplant a lot of the buying intention that would otherwise happen somewhere else. Could totally work out in this agentic interface, especially because you're talking about something, you're refining your what you want, and then boom, you order it, right? Within the same interface, meaning the cut, who gets paid what, it's completely different. There's no advertisement, there is no potentially not really symmetric information sharing between OpenAI and its partners. So that is just an entirely new funnel that asks a lot of questions. How will we monetize it? How big will it be? And how will we go forward from here? And I can see a future potentially in a couple of years where a substantial amount of purchasing intent is coming from your interactions with AI. And we're seeing now OpenAI essentially deciding where this entire endeavor is going. Like it's setting the anchors and the priors for what we'll expect agentic shopping to look like. And I think that's a really big deal.
Right. I know. I think this is at the same time, it's also kind of scary to think about like all this commerce earlier where you had to go surf through the internet and then buy the things and now an agent, if you have configured it right or configured it the way that you want, it can do a lot of things for you. Of course, this is where I know we are still not in that space of AGI yet, but I think once we get there, and now in this agentic world, uh, things get very scary. I think, of course, that is where I would like to now get into the fourth bucket of ethics and governance and regulations and policy, right? Which is very, very important. I know there are a lot of initiatives across the globe, different countries jumping in and then trying to do things in their own way. What are your thoughts, Lucas? Over to you. I think how is this space evolving? I would say in the
You mean
last few years.
specifically in the ethics side?
Ethics, yeah, ethics.
Oof. It's a tough one because there's a couple of news that were, let's say, not so wonderful, or a lot of things we saw that were outright said, especially news about statistics of how many people talk to AIs with an intent of self-harm. And so I feel like that this space overall, instead of talking specifically about any one thing, I want to take for once maybe a meta perspective, meaning I want to step out of the news cycle. And I feel like based on what we see, we should start early about age gating certain technologies. And I will be a big proponent saying Not every kid at every age needs to have full access to an AI in all its capabilities until we figured out how to make sure that it really helps the long-term flourishing, right? Especially when it is about synthetic emotions or relationships, when this AI pretends to be your friend, when it pretends to be a partner, right? I would say for me, the entire ethics space, it's slowly but surely waking up to the reality that this is certainly wonderful in certain circumstances, but it also needs to be like age appropriate, right? And we haven't, let's say, it's obvious to us that, let's say, explicit or sexual content needs to be between like, or if you want to engage with that kind of content, you need to be 18 years older, right? Makes perfect sense. I would say we're now finally waking up that also just quote unquote being a friend and synthetic intimacy, right, can be as powerful. And we also need to age gap that. And so I'm stepping out a little bit of our news cycle, but there were a lot of like individual little new tidbits of companies talking about how they want to tackle that. And that's what I really hope for the space, that we will get first clear indicators of age gating certain technologies. Because otherwise, I also think it's in their own best interest, right? If you don't really do something proactively, we're just waiting for a disaster to happen and then escalate all the way up through the courts, and then an unwieldy big hammer of compliance coming down on the company. So yeah, that's in that space. That's what I'm seeing currently, and what I hope will be news in the next coming months, that companies will go out like, look, if you want to use our tools, you have to be that old or whatnot, right? Or at least we give you certain tools in certain iterations. You don't get the regular API, you only get the age appropriate one.
Yeah, I think from my end, I think in this space, I was at Berlin. I think we were having a conference with SAP Enterprise Architect conference, and then apart from the AI and data themes and all, I was also involved in the human AI theme, which is where I was talking about a topic, a bit dry topic about how you give back to the society, how you currently we measure a lot of uh, likes or a lot of achievements or everything more financial measurements or financial metrics happen on the internet. So I was talking about how AI can maybe, if used in a better way, how you can even measure equity. How do you give back to the society? How do you measure that? And so I think that's a huge topic in itself, but I was talking about that. So from my end, so uh, it is a very dry topic, but again, very interesting that it falls under that human umbrella, or where ethics and all these kind of things will play. So coming to you, Sesh, what are your thoughts in this space? I know this is a very tough space, but I think often neglected space, I would say. But I believe, uh, like Lucas was mentioning, a lot of companies are now investing or looking into this.
Yeah, I mean, just to carry forward of whatever Lucas says, right? It's definitely a ripe area. I think we all use ChatGPT or these AI tools as our personal psychiatrists, whether it is to help us write the script for our presentation, or um, rehearse how should we phrase something when we are having a very tough conversations during meeting, right? So in that sense, having the ethics layered into the responses that comes in is a very critical thing, which in some sense already happening, but more needs to happen also, because a single a wrong trained model could alter a whole community of people in a different direction. Especially we are seeing, we see it during the echo chamber discussions, right? So from a ethics standpoint, right? More talking from an enterprise standpoint, um, what I found interesting is, like, I think mid October, the European Union announced that they are kind of coupling funding and regulation together, right?
Mhm.
So they want to have fast adoption of compliant vendors in terms of, this is not so much as like keep China away strategy, but more of, um, they are focusing on local first funding and a preference for companies which have open explainable stacks in their public contracts.
Mhm.
So compliance in that sense is becoming a strategic procurement criteria, right? And um, vendors have to, so what is interesting is, like, it ties money with mandates
Mhm.
as much, right? And I mean, how I saw it differently is, this is more like a, you're having a business angle to certain things, which in earlier this year, I think California had this AI transparency law where you can have a free publicly accessible detection tool and all those kind of things, right? But those are all from uh, audit checking perspective, which is more like a post-purchase validation and kind of having civil penalties. But baking it into the procurement cycle and making it as a regulation, I
Mhm.
feel we'll see more of it. And that kind of will also drive some of the ethics in the AI, and transparency in the AI, right? So I feel that's more like a evolution or maturity of the industry that is waiting to happen. And Europe is just driving it through mandates, but I'm sure US will come at it through innovation.
Well, I think I know some great things are happening. I think looking forward to our next conversation. But before we uh, end this month's conversation, what are your thoughts? What are you looking up to, Sesh? I would start with you.
Um, well, in the in the context of, like, what do we look forward in the next month? I feel, I mean, we will probably continue to see infrastructure as the new battleground. There will be continue to be there's this deal flow happening. Security and trust will again become the next thing after innovation. That layer in, so that will be the innovation, but that will be layered in on, like, the raw innovation on feature functionality that we will see. I'm just looking forward to what comes up and staying in touch.
Great. Over to you, Lucas. What are you looking up to next? I know we are almost getting into the holiday season, but I think some next 4 weeks are
Ooh,
going to be
I
crucial.
think I have something thematically adequate. I haven't yet had a chance to really play around with this technology, but there have been a couple of breakthroughs of AI generated music. So whether it's Suno or Udio, like essentially based on research, we passed a threshold that the majority of people cannot tell the difference between AI generated songs and quote unquote human created songs, right? Um, I mean, in the end, it's also sitting just in front of a computer and rearranging music. But I'm excited of trying it myself. And I've also seen like tons of new genres popping up on YouTube and the internet. Like I don't know, like old songs, like
Mhm.
old meaning Linkin Park or whatever, something from the 2000s in a completely different genre, right?
Mhm.
So Motown or blues or jazz versions of sounds we all know. I'm
Mhm.
excited of trying it out myself and going down memory lane with a lot of my music from the 2000s and trying them out in completely different settings. That will be fun, and I might try some holiday jingles while being there, right?
Great. I think I was, I think last weekend, I think I was talking with at one of these tech conferences. I think there is this startup, I think Suno.com or Suno.ai. I think they create this music. I mean, that was amazing. Depending on your mood or depending on your the text that you provide, and it's very. Of course, they are going through a lot of these. Um, they have to get through these copyright jiggles and other things, but I think looks interesting. Looks interesting. Well, thanks for your time, both of you. I believe we'll look forward. Have a wonderful next few weeks, and then we'll connect back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Always interesting.
Thank you, and looking forward to the next time.
All right. Welcome back, Manjeet. So, as always, I think the last 2, 3 sessions, it has been like 2 parts, but I think this is also working out good. The first part I had Sesh and Lucas. We talked about a few things like always. So what is going on in your world, Manjeet? How are things, before we get into the topic of our October AI news around the globe, how are things in your world? What's happening?
I think in my world, I would say velocity continue to be and velocity, I mean like a build fast, ship fast, um, work with customers to make them successful and help them like drive the adoption. And then, so I think my take is in the AI space, speed is becoming I would say, topmost mode right now. Um, and let me give you some more color because see as a product manager, I think of product market fit, right? We talk about it and in the previous SaaS world, what you used to have basically is like once you find a product market fit, you scale fast in the sense, you file the repeatable sales motion and then, um, but what's happening is in AI world, you have to continue to find the product market fit. What I mean by that is gone are the days where like, oh, once you build an app and you sell it for 3 years, even if you just add little bells and whistles here and there. Here, the competition is so intense.
Right.
Competitors are catching up very, very quickly. Each layer, model layer, or I would say even I would argue it's catching up on the biggest data center layer as well. So even if I don't have money in the pocket, what you're seeing is people are finding creative ways to finance the build out of data center.
Right.
So for example, just like Meta, right? How they partner with BlackRock and others, and that's kind of very these kind of I call it business model or like figuring out ways they were not common before or like very like, I haven't seen it because it's like, hey, I have the money in my balance sheet. I wouldn't want to kind of put 30 billion at risk by myself. Let me hedge the risk and give it to. So it's an interesting, right? And so I think the point I'm trying to make is the product market fit is a continuous moving thing, and that's where you see, when people caught up with GPT-4, now OpenAI is like, okay, I'm setting a new target, and people catch up on open source, and so that's what's happening in my world. Like, how do we move fast in a large company? Uh, and after Dreamforce, there is a lot of momentum. So all exciting stuff.
I know that you guys had one of these biggest conferences, right? I think I know you've been just fresh out of that Dreamforce conference, and of course, from my end as well, there were a couple of
Right.
conferences that I have also been to. So, month of October has been really a whirlwind kind of a tour for me as well. I was in LA as well for another tech conference. So overall, all in all, I think a lot of news going on there. So coming back to our regular categories, right? I think, in the first part, we did discuss about these categories, but I think which one you want to pick? I think product launches and innovation or infrastructure.
Yeah. No, we can let's spend. I think I would touch more on the I think the product launches that I'm bullish about. So one category is kind of this AI browser war, I call it, right? So what people are doing is they're taking Chrome's open source Chromium
Right. Right.
and building out. So now, not just, I mean, I think in the last episode we talked about Perplexity Comet browser, but now there's few more like OpenAI
Yes.
and others in it. So I think NetNet is, to me, um, I think this browser is a great interface. And there are so many use cases where you don't want to deal with a lot of tabs and copy pasting from one tab to another is like, okay, if I have that kind of agentify the browser, which means like, can browser see what's happening on each of those tabs and then really ask contextual questions based on the page I'm looking at. So that's kind of very organic and natural workflow. So I think having the agentic, these agents within the browser, to me, it's very natural. The same is true with let's say where else people spend time. So let's kind of take that as a thread. So we spend time in browser, so that's what's happening. Other place where people spend time, specifically in the enterprise, is in Slack or in
Right.
Team. And
Teams. Yeah.
so that is the another natural place where if you have the AI right there for you, rather than me going and opening up ChatGPT or Gemini and others and dealing with like in here. So that's another modality. And specifically, we are doubling down on that because we own on Slack and bringing these agents within the Slack. So I don't have to go for whether I'm asking a question to the human or whether I'm asking questions to the AI. It's the same surface for me, and then it becomes kind of a natural human plus AI, right? A playground or the collaborations or whatever we call it. The same is true with browser. So this is kind of the thread I'm looking into. Where else, we generally spend time into these pockets. Other one will be is within these common workflows. If you look across, like what are 6 or 7 top workflows, right? Procure to pay or uh, right, or even the sales and marketing and others, and then
Right. Right.
I think what's happening is AI is showing up everywhere.
Mhm.
And if you look across the, let's say, for example, Google's latest earning and others, so it's showing up.
Yeah, I think that was amazing, right? I mean, today I think it's
So,
talking
yeah.
about almost doubled in the last 4 years, from 50 billion to 100 billion in a quarter. That's mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the
So I
way
think,
now, yeah, I think this is what we were also talking in the part one. Google has been now entrenched into everything, starting with not only the AI war, but also the browser and also the search and also the
yeah.
chips as well, right? I think now they are getting into this.
Yeah.
What do you call
No,
the?
I think the reason why this is happening is I mentioned about speed, right? I started from there. Google took some time to get their act together, right? The speed. The second biggest driver is your distribution.
Distribution.
Anybody who has like teams who are ready to roll up their sleeves and learn quickly and build out, and if you have the distribution channel, I think then it's a great combo in kind of Gen AI world. And now I think Google have had that kind of, I call it like, hey, once the machinery starts to churn, like crank out
Right.
things, it's, 170,000 people. Even if they are slower than, let's say 50% slower than a startup or 70% slower than overall it's 170,000 people and they can crank out a lot of good things if PMs are doing the right job of prioritizations and then, people are executing it. And because it's such a big machinery. So that's what we are seeing. And of course, the all these other players like Amazon results and others, and I think anybody who has the cloud offering, they are organically doing well without any. It's just the inbound demand is so big from OpenAI and from others, and then even big enterprises. And so there's kind of a three-part demand. One is this big, let's say OpenAI is driving a lot of it, and then let's call these labs. The second big driver is big enterprises, right? And third one is bit of these co-locators, and then right anybody and they kind of if I that's how I kind of stack rank them.
Right. Right. And I believe Microsoft Copilot as well, I think in their release in the fall release, they brought this multimodal chat, memory recall, a few other things as well in their Copilot, right? I think I'm pretty sure they are like they have these teams in interface, and they are kind of integrating quite a bit, and they're innovating quite fast as well.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
on the
good.
on the model layer, one thing I'm kind of thread I'm tracking is um, the one of the biggest opportunity in the model layer is developers, like the how developers use your APIs to do coding and other developments and others. And the latest report I'm seeing is looks like Anthropic continue to be the leader in that space, even though Gemini and everybody's trying, but they are like very kind of maniacally focused. Hey, we don't want to build a consumer product, because OpenAI has to build consumer and they want to be everywhere, just like Google early days, right? You make a lot of bets and then, but I think what's paying off for Anthropic is pretty focused approach
Developer focused, yeah.
and a bit more security focused. I think that's kind of their and some of these companies and I think they and that focus is making their model very good in that specific task. Two things, say just kind of writing and then coding. We
Right.
don't care about image generation. We don't care about video. And that's where, I think, yeah, they continue to grow. That was kind of another chart I was seeing that. Um,
True.
yeah.
And other important one of the bigger announcements that I have noticed as well, briefly brought up, is about this Tesla's Optimus humanoid robot, right? I think it made its first, I think, large scale public demonstration that they had in New York. I think sometime last week, I believe. I think, and then so this is kind of signaling so much of progress or towards this general purpose robotics. I know it's still a long way out there, but it is just getting out there.
No, in fact, I'll tell you, there's one or two companies even leading the pack there, even faster than Tesla. One is Neo. Okay.
Yeah.
They launched and the interesting go-to-market motion where, hey, either you can buy it for $20,000, which is way cheap. I mean, $20,000 bomb in US to for
US,
delivery. I think that's that versus we are talking about $50,000, $60,000 and then and you can lease it. Like your home robot, you can like, hey, I want to try it out for $300 to see if it can do laundry for me or what. I would try it, but I think it's not there because I'm seeing the marketing demo video, which does feels like more flawless, and then maybe the more somebody's controlling. But in reality, then some people posted and there's like, I think we'll get there because this problem is hard. In a home environment, like I'm in this room and like very different than your home, and then really training into
learning that the learning aspects are going to be a little tough for these robots to understand.
Yeah, because it's different than training a robot for a factory floor, because there it's exactly, right? Hey, this is the machine one, machine two, or I think where these robots will my take is humanoid, like home helper robot, it's still a year or so away.
Yeah.
But anything that you can do on the desk, sitting and assembling, and those, I think those are the ones that will be, I think will have faster adoption, because then it's like, and China is, I mean, I think they're expert in those all assemblies and building phones and whatnot, and then so, yeah, it's fascinating.
Right. Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is there was an interesting LinkedIn post as well by one of our SAP's chief AI officer, because we have another Decade conference coming up in November first week in Berlin. And he was putting a post saying that he's sitting with a humanoid robot and kind of talking about how things are going to be about what's going to happen and what are the other things and a lot of other innovations that's going to happen. So I believe, like you said, I think what is happening is that we are not yet there, but many of the people out there, they're coming up with these kind of uh, shows or these kind of demos, giving that much needed awareness or much needed push, so that I think there will be a lot more investment coming up. I think this is where it's going on. Maybe I think with this we can get into that. We can briefly touch base the investment topic, right? I think infrastructure and investment, if you want to talk about what's happening in that world, because there is a lot going on.
Yeah, no, I think let me touch on the not the infra, because infra is obvious.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about $1 trillion plus, right? It's even like, okay, a moot point of $5 billion or that. I think that's kind of, and different ways of financing, as I was saying. It's not just kind of, VC financing now. These are different bankers and builders, and they are coming into picture. I'm hearing there's a lot of data center activities in India now. They, build out of those, like in all the different. I'm not surprised, because that's where the workload has. In fact, the other part of that, right? The people don't talk about it is, and I think quite a bit is the environmental impact of this data center. And it has become the same company which used to say, "Hey, I'm a carbon zero." For a while, they have no choice but to, "Hey, I don't care, and let's move fast, burn whatever gases, or get that we have to crank out those, because it's just that, again, they're going back to speed." Those companies, all companies have good intentions. They all want to be like, just like what they were earlier, want to be carbon zero. But what it means is there's two things is happening. If you live in the area where there is in 30-40 mile radius, if the data center is being built up, one big problem is happening for you is your electricity bill is going up very, very fast. So people are telling, "Hey, I was paying $100, now there's now like $360. Same, nothing has changed in my household, just because there are two other data center came, and they are buying up all the capacity and demand in advance, and like, okay, so it becomes like a, the second is it's not just electricity. They are burning, other ways and fossils and others. So you see the air quality as also a challenge. And these are, I think, and maybe we don't realize these things, but over a period of time, the amount of build out is happening. And that goes back to a little bit of, right, a bit of, hey, what's ethical, and then are we doing it just for long-term sustainability, and then, right? Um, so I think for, I think, 1 or 2 years, I see, government is also lenient. Let's move fast, and hopefully then we will come back, and then you're like, okay, hey, now let's figure it out more solar energy and all other ways, and we'll kind of balance it out. That's one thing. The second investment bucket is that I'm seeing is happening across these is, and one particular set of companies you will see there is this data labeling company.
Right.
So Mercor, just 2.5 year old company. Their recent post raise valuation is $10 billion.
Wow.
Very simple kind of, and people still don't believe in that. Like, oh, is this business model sustainable? They continue to grow. 22-year-old founders, and they are like, and it's so I think that then the question becomes, well, what they are doing, right? What, who is paying them? So what's happening is the last year there was a huge demand for training data labeling. And there's still demand, but I think the training data labeling is now a little bit of slowing down. And then, right, now what's happening is make these models and these agents that are built on these models good into specific tasks. If you are a bank, let's say banking, if you are a banker, or if you are, let's say, a comedian, or if you are, so it's like, it's called reinforcement learning. And the way it is being done is, it's not like, oh, take this data and label it. It is more of a live simulation. So which means you'll do is, hey, if you are a doctor, come and play with this, and then look at the responses and tell, oh, agent, this response was good, why this was good, and this response was bad, why this is bad. And that sort of feedback loop is gold for the improvement. And that's where you'll say is like now the RL has become the new, and it's not a new concept. I mean,
It's a
that's
yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
even in the robots we were talking about, it's like you really have to teach them, imitations, and then kind of, show them all those different scenarios. So every company in that segment continues to grow. Turing, another company, right? They are growing and hiring, and then they say like, "Hey, we are helping these labs to build better model and better agents." And then, uh, so it's. I think that's it's crazy time.
Right,
So,
right. And
yeah,
and of course, there are also these talks about the venture market analysts that also talks about AI exuberance versus AI bubble, and all these kind of things are again coming up. But I do not think, at least the comparisons with the internet.com is not really fair, because here most of these things are attached to something. Most of the GPUs are like whatever being used. Uh, these are being bought by these big firms, big corporations, right? I think the
right.
invest and of course it will convert into some kind of realized value.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's and then another observation I have is I look into these funding, and then right, I mentioned Marco, right? Those young founders raised 30 billion, 300 million at 10 billion, right? So kind of,
Right, right.
that's not just one example.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, if you're a VC, of course you have money in the pocket, and then look at the risk appetite they
Yeah,
have. Versus, if you are a second time founder, third time founder, fourth time successful exit pedigree, and then
that's
uh,
different. Yeah.
I think the level of confidence that, and then I think specifically in the Bay Area or San Francisco, a lot of this, I think it's the only place in the world where um, I think, there's no difference between a 22-year-old versus, let's say, 50-year-old founder. This
Good.
person has two, three exit, and this. What I'm finding is they're able to do the
Do the
same thing
same thing.
at
Yeah.
10 billion valuation. And I'm like, that never happened before. So that's what
And the
this
VCs are ready to fund, and the VCs are ready to invest and fund, because I think,
if you
yeah,
show them good month-over-month growth,
yeah,
that's
true.
it. They don't care if you're a first-time founder or second-time founder.
And this is only happening now. I think the last maybe 1 or 2 years, because I think
Not
we are
even
in that
just this year,
this
honestly.
year. I think,
Even
yeah.
last year was more like they were doubtful of, they were giving the seed round, but
Right,
not writing 300 million check, which
right,
is a
right.
different ball game, right? Giving a million or two, and then like seeing, okay, let's see, let's get this gets tried out, and like in fact, I don't know how much YC gives these days, but they even give smaller check for all these, like maybe 750K in some
Right.
cases.
The Y Combinator,
Like,
yes,
hey,
yes.
let's try to find the first pilot customer.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
and um, so that's kind of the one, and then the other thing, like, what I'm saying is, hey, if you have a GPU, maybe get ready. People might be suing you because you're using their data to train or whatever, right? So, uh, right. So then even Reddit is also saying like, if you are using my data, then you cannot even use my data. What comes in the Google search.
Right,
Maybe people
right.
were finding creative ways. Hey, I will not
Yeah.
query you, but I'll do a lot of Google search and then take that. So,
Yeah.
and we can go in, I mean, is this ethical or not ethical, or like, but hey, the world we are moving into, a lot of things are these gray borderline,
Mm.
as long as you are not directly breaking the law. So
Right.
that's where a lot of these young founders,
Mm.
they are pushing boundaries. Let's see what happens. And then, so, and once somebody you find, and it's like, okay, other also follow, right? And uh, yeah, no, awesome. I don't know, any other area you want to touch on, or
We can maybe briefly touch on the integration or the ecosystem area if you want to kind of. Uh, I know there's been a lot of integrations and a lot of ecosystem partnerships and other things going on.
yeah, Yeah, no, totally. See, everybody's looking for, larger distribution.
Mm,
I think
mm,
that's how I look about these partnership is specifically smaller companies. They are
mm,
really like, and so that's where it's not just, partnership between two players. I'm seeing more three-way partnership these days.
mm,
In some
mm.
cases, kind of four-way.
Right.
Uh, and it's interesting. Everybody is also becoming normal, like I use this word like frenemy. We are a
Mm,
friend and enemy as well.
right.
So maybe in one product area they are partnering, in another product area they are competing directly.
Right. Right. Right.
So that I see, right? Yeah, I mean all across, right? And just like take, for example, we are doing a lot of work with Google.
Mhm.
It's like we are partner and like cloud, but at the same time, we are building, agent force, and they also have the, agent space or agent, even for their enterprise product, they have like, so that's why it's like, okay, we are also competing for the same ICP or like your customer profile and other. So, but that's, I think, so my take is there'll be a lot more common across these companies,
Mm, mm,
where in one product you're literally neck to neck, other product areas you are, partnering, and I think that's fair as long as you are trying to do best thing for your business and for the end user.
right. So, what are you looking up for? I know we are maybe 6 weeks away from the real holiday season, but I believe almost like 3 weeks away, the end of November. I think things
Yeah.
are gonna slow down quite a bit. What are you looking forward in the holiday season? Now, it's fast approaching November and December. I still know there's a lot of new things coming up.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
I think so. This next few weeks will go fast, right? In holidays, and then so what I'm thinking about is what are some of the AI myths that should get busted, or like
Mm,
some more data, for example.
mm,
Let's say, hey, because see, there's news like, okay, there's one thing is there's some layoffs happening in different projects and teams, and
right,
team getting
right.
smaller and then whatnot. But also like, is AI really replacing roles, right?
Mm,
So,
mm,
and and then probably in some of them, yes. Then how many like what are the new roles that are coming up?
mhm,
In fact, I'm trying to create one or two slides, just kind of in my lens standpoint is like, hey, which are the roles that were not there and now showing up, right?
mm.
For example, this all the data labeling companies. It's a new gig economy.
The new big economy. Yeah, yeah.
Workcore is paying more than $1 million every day to these people, right? So that's how big, like how many people are mostly contractor hourly wager, and that's kind of the
Right.
Scale AI and others. And so, and companies are hiring these, the eval engineers, and then, right, the forward deployment engineer, as you were talking. So all these are kind of new. So I think to me is what I'm kind of continue to do personally is learn faster and then stay up to date, and like as long as my learning trajectory is high, stays up, and that's kind of energizes me.
Yeah.
And another fun exercise to do is, what if AI takes away my job? What will I
Mm,
be doing? I think
mm,
more, um, and I think that's a good question everybody should be asking these days,
mm.
right? I don't want it to be happen, right? But if it
Yeah.
happens,
Right, right.
at least if there are things, if you think about it, then you are not surprised, because
That's
like.
fine. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so I don't know. I mean, that's where I a little bit of go back to my other passion. Probably I'll have a gym where I will
Fitness. Yeah.
make these dysfunctional, slow agent and slow humans more fitter in the same gym. So that's kind of the what came to my mind in that exercise,
Mm.
because there will still be, the inefficiencies, or like humans, and then like not just training human. I'll probably
Even.
have a one gym under one roof. Hey,
Mhm.
you bring your your body, or bring your AI agent, and I'll help
Right.
you. help you make it fit. I did that.
That's a nice concept, I believe. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure in future things will pop up in that way too. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. No, I'll probably do more thinking and throw out a post out there just to see how people think about this.
That's a great way of looking at it. Any
Yeah.
fitness tip or something like that as we uh, come back as we end this
Yeah,
month?
see, I think we are going into holiday season and a little bit of winter and flu, and then right. So, um, it's always, I think, yeah, if you're taking flu shots, do it. And this is a little bit more proactive side. Um, and I would say it's natural when there's a cold, you move less. So I make sure that I'm kind of still getting my routine workout done, and then and in fact, it's funny, right? Even if his winters are coming, I start to stay at the same water temperature level, when it comes down to showering and whatnot. Because my tip is if you get too comfortable and accustomed to like this 70-degree ideal temperature or 75,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're more prone to catching cold, and then because your body forgets how to
True.
defend when there's a bacteria around, and then so I think the little bit of continue to have the cold exposure, and then people do it in different form. They do ice bath and whatnot. So that's I'm not. I always like lightweight. I just the tap water, for example, and so that's kind of my tip that keep the this edge like the comfort level, not always like cozy was.
Even the room temperature, I think it's better not to crank up the heat. I think, like you
Yeah,
said, I think maintaining at 68 or 69 is better.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, all seasonal tips. Yeah, if it's summer,
Okay.
drink more water. Yeah, sounds good.
Well, as always, amazing talking with you, Manjeet, and we'll connect back again soon.
Awesome, Raghu. It's a blast. Thank you very much, and we'll chat soon.
As we close our season 16 opener, one truth resonates. AI is no longer a headline. It's the infrastructure of our next generation enterprise. From the silicon foundries to the policy tables, October 2025 showed us that the world is building, aligning, and questioning all at once. A huge thank you to Sesh, Lucas, and Manjeet for bringing clarity, challenge, and vision to this global conversation. And to our listeners, the architects, innovators, and dreamers driving enterprise transformation, this season is for you. In the next episode, we'll dive deeper into more interesting topics in the realm of AI and the human side. Until then, stay curious, stay bold, and keep architecting the bridge to the promised land of intelligence. Happy predicting the future with AI, and stay XTraw.